Tying up another wet fly from Ray Bergman's book Trout. This is called the Fisher. Handsome little fly with some wood duck in the tail there. The wing is a matched and married wing of white and black goose quill. This one's kind of interesting because the profiles on them ended up being noticeably different. Usually they're not that pronounced different. This is going to be a fishing fly, so I'm not that concerned about it, but I talk more about that in the video, as well as how I put the wings together. Little cheek of jungle cock on there. That's the Fisher. I'll get started tying. I'm going to start the Fisher with my hook in the vise. This is a Mustad 33.99 in a size 6, just a standard wet fly hook. And debarb that. There is a yellow yarn body on this. This is a 4-strand just wool yarn. I'm going to use just 2 strands of that, but because of that, I'm going to start out with a white thread. This is a Danville 70 denier in white, because I don't want that floss darkened up in the water, or not floss, that yarn. I'm going to attach my thread about an eye length behind the eye of the hook and advance my thread down to the point of the hook. That's where I'll tie in the tail, and then the rib and the body. So the tail is either wood duck or Mandarin. I've got some wood duck here. All I want to do is I'm going to prep the feather a little bit, getting some of these softer fibers out of here. And then I'll get maybe about 8 to 10 barbs, maybe a dozen barbs. Get those perpendicular to the rachis so that those tips are evened up. Peel those off. Clump those together. I'm going to measure those so they're about a shank length plus the eye in length. I'll set those up and tie those in, advancing my thread back a little bit. Trim away this excess so that's the length of the body. Now for tinsel, it's a gold tinsel. I'm using a Danville's size 16 and 18 silver and gold mylar tinsel for this. So I'm going to tie this in with the silver side out. And you want to double check this because on occasions that has flipped over on me and it's the gold side. Excuse me, it's the gold side out, which means when you apply it and it twists around, it'll be the silver side. So a couple of wraps to secure that in. Now I'm going to take my yarn. As I said, this is a 4-strand wool yarn. I'm just going to use 2 strands of this yellow yarn. I'm going to tie this in so that the end here is the length of the body. Again, I'm tying that in, still kind of working my way down the shank to the end of the body. And then I'm going to wind back forward. A little wax on my thread. So I'll bring this back forward, and then I'll apply the yarn for the body and the tinsel for the rib. body and the rib applied, I'll change over to my black thread. My finishing thread is just a Danville 70 denier in black. Probably noticed while I was applying that body that I took the twist out of that wool yarn. You could leave it in if you want to. I just like to take it out because it gives me a little bit smoother body. I'm going to advance my thread back to the end of the headspace and I'll tie in the throat. The throat is just some Claret. I'm just using some Claret, some Schlappen. I'm going to place that underneath the fly so that the tips are somewhere between the point and the barb. And a little pinch and loop underneath there. Throat is complete. Smoothing that off just a little bit here. I'll now put in the wing. The wing is some black and white quills that are married and then matched. And then also there's some jungle cock on the outside. So what I've done here is I have my black and my white left and rights here. I've already cut out the size for the section that I'm looking for. What I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off the white first, and then I'll put the black down on top, getting those tips even, and then peel that out, and then marry these two together. That's the easiest way. Now the tips aren't quite even there, so the nice thing is I can just pull that apart, realign that, and then marry that together. If you have to do that a couple of times, that's fine. Sometimes this is the way it is. But once you get those fairly nice and even, you've got one half of your wing together. Now the white on this is a little bit wide for this fly, which is fine because the wing itself is a little bit wide. I'll place that down and I'll pull the white off for the other side. I didn't quite clip enough on this one. So the nice thing about just doing it this way is I didn't clip quite enough. So you can match that back up and just clip a little bit more. And now I have just a little bit wider. That's about it, how wide the white should be. The easiest thing, again, if you cut that and leave it onto the feather, this is goose quill, by the way, leave it onto the feather and just bring it down and touch it this way and then roll your fingers up to pinch it to pull that off. It keeps you from having to cut these, put them on the table, and then pick them up and get them together, because it's very easy, especially if you cut all four of these, to get them mixed up, which is which, and then they don't marry the way they're supposed to. Some feathers work a little bit easier than others. That one's got a little bump out right here. I'm going to get another section of white off of that feather. Sometimes it's what you have to do. The feathers themselves have to, the quality for each one has to kind of match up. It can be kind of a chore sometimes to find feathers that complement each other and match up pretty well. This one still, I think it's just the shape on the end here is a little different than that. and that it's not at this one curves a little and that one's straight. But we're going to go with that. I think that'll work. Now what you want to do is you'll hold this in your hand. That's one side. You're going to pick up the first one that we did and match the tips up on that. And you want to get the tips for the length, but then we want to match the center line between the black and the white on both of these. Because that way, the blacks are even on this one for the most part, but the white on your side is a little bit wide. Flip that over, see if you can see that. Just a little wide, which we kind of knew that when we made it. Get my bodkin in here and peel out a couple of barbs from that one side. Now our wing is ready. Got our tips even. Profiles are pretty good. As you can see, even on this one, when I sandwich this together, this has a little bit different profile on it. So they're not 100% perfect, but you're dealing with a living material, and sometimes that's the way it is. Tips should go about halfway down the tail. Get my loop in here, and as soon as I start pulling that down, I'm going to roll my fingers forward, keeping that all compressing and coming down right on top of the hook shank. A few extra wraps to secure it. Now this side of the wing compressed in, folded in or something, because it barely see it. So I'm going to take this back out. We'll try that again. Interesting, this side of that wing is not compressing like this. It's somehow folding inside itself. I'll try one more time, see if I can't get that to cooperate. Sometimes you can do this and you just, no matter what you do with the material, it just does not want to cooperate. And depending on what you're doing, if this is a fishing fly, I wouldn't be that concerned about it. If it's a one you want to frame or present or something, then maybe, unfortunately, you have to build a whole new wing. See, that profile is very different on the other side. But again, this is going to be for fishing, so I'm not going to be that concerned about it. May not look the best, and it may not be perfect for the internet, but that's how it goes sometimes. Third time, hopefully, is a charm. That worked a little bit better. So I've got a little bit more showing up here. Rather interesting that this is how it kind of turns out sometimes. Again, you'll notice this has a more sweeping profile, and this has a more blunted profile here. So again, if I were going to frame that, then I would go ahead and just redo that wing. Stabilizing that, I'm going to clean all of this up before I put in the jungle cock. So the jungle cock on this is just, they're very, very small nails you want to get out here. And I prep these by stroking not only the barbs below the jungle cock out, but there's usually some thin black ones on the side of the white there. And I will take those out as well. and then peel off the rest. And I'm just going to place this up on the side. I'm going to tie this in right around the middle of that white band right there. Get 2 or 3 wraps to secure it. And then I will take the other one for the other side. Here I want to make certain that I have the tips of these right here more or less evened up. So you'll notice here that on this one I'm in the middle of the white band, but to get these about even on both sides, I'm near the bottom of that one. That just has to do with the size of the nails. Again, this is living material. You're not going to be getting these, looking exactly each one identical. But that's good enough. I left those butt ends on initially in case I had to move those around a little. I'm going to trim those away. Bring my thread down to behind the eye of the hook and come backwards, shaping the head and covering up those butt ends. If there's a little bit of white showing, like this right here, I got just a touch of white, I'll leave it because with everything going on in here, I don't want to bulk up the head space right there. So I can use the whip finish here to either cover it up, or I'm going to put a top coat of black lacquer on here so that little bit of white would get covered up. Generally, I find that when I do the whip finish here, I'll get those little bits covered up. A little bit of head cement on here to soak down and seal that up. Got a little bit of head cement in the eye of the hook there. Always keep some extra peacock herl around because you can just run that down through the eye to clear out any head cement. So there you have it. That is the Fisher. It's interesting because the white on this lower part also split a little bit. So the wing isn't exactly perfect in its profile on both sides. Some of them turn out that way, but it is certainly serviceable as a fishing fly. That's a Fisher. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.